Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video. As you guys can probably tell by my voice, I'm still not 100% recovered. However, today I'm once again feeling, decent enough to put out a video. And today's video is going to be about something that I think a lot of you guys want to hear me talk about. And I'm going to be talking about the main reason why I bought a new 3DS. And that is obviously Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Now, this game is just flat out awesome, is all I can really say. I've played about 10 hours of it at this point, and I've gotten to the second village, so I'm still just very much scratching the surface at this point. You guys might be like, whoa, 10 hours and you're only at the second village? What the hell have you been doing? And the reasoning behind that is because I actually played through all of the training missions for all of the weapons, because I wanted to see, how the weapons behaved in Monster Hunter 4, and just to get an idea of all of the weapons that are currently available, which are quite a few. I don't even know exactly the number of weapons because I didn't memorize it or anything, but there are a ton of weapons. Now, beyond a ton of weapons, there's also a ton of monsters. And speaking of monsters, I really should mention the fact that you have new monsters that I haven't really seen in 3 Ultimate or in Freedom Unite, which are the 2 Monster Hunters that I've played before. And there are also returning monsters that weren't in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, but were in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, like the Velocidrome and the Yan Kut-Ku. And oh man, when I fought the Yan Kut-Ku, it was just like a trip back to memory lane, essentially. And I just felt really good about that particular fight. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's the Yan Kut-Ku that we all know and love, and I was really surprised that I never seen a Yan Kut-Ku in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. So that was something that was very fun. The other thing that I've noticed is as I was fighting the Velocidrome, he now has new attacks. I'm not sure if it's Velocidrome or Velocidrone. I don't know what the exact name of that monster is, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the basic, raptor boss type thing. It's like the Great Jaggy of Freedom Unite is Velocidrome. And essentially, as I was fighting him, I noticed that he's got new attacks. He's also got a grappling attack now, so he can actually knock you down, jump on top of you, and start pecking at you. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we can expect to see new monsters, returning monsters, and you can expect to see the returning monsters to have, a new move set, which is pretty damn cool if you ask me. On a more generalistic level, the entire game feels a lot more like Monster Hunter Freedom Unite than necessarily Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. For something that is a very simplistic thing that maybe a lot of people don't even care about, but it's something that I personally really enjoyed in Freedom Unite, was the fact that when you got you used to have your cats that would cook for you, and whenever you would start up a meal or something, they would do the animation of dancing and whatnot and preparing the meal. And I thought that was pretty cool. And in 3 Ultimate, they didn't do that anymore. The only animation you get is your character just chomping down the food really fast. And in this one, you have the animation again of a cat kind of preparing the food for you and whatnot. I think those kinds of small little details, I think those are really cool. And yeah, the game just has a more Freedom Unite feel to it than necessarily 3 Ultimate. You're going to be a part of this traveling caravan, which, as I mentioned, you're going to be traveling from villages to villages. And instead of you having a farm, which you had in the previous 2 Monster Hunter titles that I've played, you're actually going to have that replaced by this store that gives you a functionality similar to the farm, which essentially this guy duplicates items that you give him, which when you think about it, that is what the farm did. You would put an herb down and it would get multiplied. So he does that, and he also trades materials for you. So let's say you can trade maybe a Velocidrome skull for a Great Jaggy tail or something like that. I mean, I'm just pulling stuff up. I'm pretty sure that trade is not going to happen, but you get trades kind of like that. So let's say you've been hunting the same monster over and over and you get a bunch of materials that you don't need. You might be able to trade those for materials that you actually do need. So that is pretty cool. And this store also allows you to purchase certain materials using Caravan points. Now, these Caravan points are points that you make just for doing hunts, which to me seems like they work kind of like the hunting log that you used to have in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, which you would go on these free hunts, and then you would like generate resources. Yeah, that's it, resources. You would generate those resources. I think caravan points are the resources, so to speak, of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Now, on top of that, you're also going to get a couple of new weapons, which, if you guys don't know yet, it's going to be the Charged Blade and the Insect Glaive. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Insect Glaive. I've played a little bit with it, but I'm not a huge fan of that. However, the Charged Blade really, it replaced the Gun Lance for me, because the Gun Lance was my favorite weapon, because you guys know that I like things that explode and go boom, and Gun Lance obviously would shoot, and like you would have Wyvern's Fire, all that. So Charged Blade does something very, very similar to that, with the difference that I can actually use an axe instead of a lance. So you will have like the sword and shield thing, and you can attack with sword and shield, and you can block, and then you can at some point just switch things up and start smashing, and stuff will explode because the blade is charged with something, these elemental files or whatever. I haven't mastered everything yet, but I really like the Charged Blade. It's definitely my kind of weapon. So that is the weapon that I've been using the most. In case you guys are wondering about the Insect Glaive, it's going to be a weapon. It's going to have its own way of upgrading, because I keep picking up these materials that are specific to the Insect Glaive. I'm not exactly sure what that's about. But beyond that, you actually get this insect, and you can send the insect to collect things from the monster, from different parts of the monster, and depending on the part that you aim the insect to, you will get different bonuses from that. Like, you can get health regen, you can get defensive bonuses, you can get offensive bonuses. You just have to kind of like shoot your insect at the monster, and then you can beat the crap out of the monster with the glaive still, because the glaive is still like a two-handed weapon that you can basically beat the crap out of him. If I was to say how it feels when you're just wielding the glaive, and I mean, obviously you're going to have to use the insect mechanics in order to really take advantage of the glaive, but the glaive, in terms of speed and attack power and whatnot, feels kind of like a longsword, in my opinion. So that's what I can tell you about the new weapons. You still have all of the old weapons that you've seen in the previous Monster Hunter games. So you got lance, sword and shield, longsword, great sword, gun lance, the three ranged weapons, which are the bow gun, and the heavy bow gun. And there's even more. I don't know all the dual blades. I don't know all the weapons by head. So that is some of the stuff that you can look forward to. Now, in terms of actual gameplay, the maps work very much the same way that they used to work in previous Monster Hunter. So you still load into small, tight zones where you fight the monsters, and then whenever the monsters leave, you have to load into another zone. But with the new 3DS, something that I've noticed is that the loadings are really fast. I'm not sure if that is going to be the case with the old 3DS. I think that the loadings are probably going to be a little bit longer with the old 3DS, because the new one has a better processor specifically for loading times. So that is something that you might want to consider if you want to buy the new 3DS or not. And if you're just really into Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, like is the case for me, that is something that you might want to consider. But once you get past the whole loading thing and whatnot, and the way the map works, because it's exactly the same thing, something that you're going to notice in the in the new maps is that they have a lot more verticality than we previously had. And what does this mean? Well, you're going to have maps that are going to have like 2 levels, for instance, where you're going to have the ground level of the map, and then you might have a mesh of, how should I call it? Like almost like a net, but a naturally formed net, like of roots and leaves and stuff. And you can climb on top of that, and that would be like on a top layer of that same map. And I fought a monster where he would actually hang from the top layer, and he would beat stuff down on the bottom layer. So you could actually go to the top and beat him on the hand, and he would fall down, and then you would be able to do a jump attack on top of him, which was pretty cool. So yeah, increased verticality, and like I just mentioned, jumping attacks. So beyond the fact that you now have increased verticality, the movement is going to be a lot more fluid, because there's going to be like ledges and stuff, but you don't have to necessarily, you don't really have to put away your weapon in order to climb ledges. You can just run on through, and you can go through that ledge. And as you go through the ledge, if you are going in the opposite direction, like if you're going from up to down, for instance, you will actually jump off the ledge. And if you press the attack button, you will do a leaping attack. And doing leaping attacks is really cool because if you hit a monster with a leaping attack at the right time, you might actually get a grapple attack out of it, which means your character will actually mount the monster and you can start stabbing him with your carving knife. That is pretty damn cool. But even more importantly than the leaping attacks is, like I've mentioned, just the fluidity. The game just feels a lot more fluid. Like, if you remember from Monster Hunter Freedom Unite and Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, a lot of people would complain that the controls are a little bit stiff. Even people like me who kind of, I wouldn't say mastered the control scheme of Monster Hunter, but are comfortable with it, I can still recognize that the game it felt a little bit stiff on some occasions. I want to say that Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate does not feel as stiff. It actually feels a lot more fluid. And the whole thing about going on top of ledges and doing jumping attacks and whatnot is a big part of that. So you got increased verticality, increased fluidity of movement, leaping attacks, the grappling attacks. You can now actually do attacks while you're climbing. As a matter of fact, you can also dodge while you're climbing. I mean, you can mantle ledges, but let's say if you're actually climbing something that's a lot larger than a ledge, you still have to put your weapon away and start climbing. But the interesting thing about climbing is you can now dodge while climbing. And in previous Monster Hunters, you would actually run. You would press like the right trigger button so that your character would start climbing a little bit faster, and that would consume your stamina. You no longer do that. When you're climbing, you can actually use the roll button, which in terms of the 3DS, it's the B button. And you can just do a little leap, like a little dodge, and you can do that to the sides or to the bottom or to the top. As a matter of fact, you can even climb up on a wall, then press the B button, jump off, and do a leaping attack from there if you want to. So there's a lot more variety of attacks in terms of with the vertical aspect of it, which I think is just friggin' awesome. And you can even attack while you're climbing with your carving knife. I mean, it's a limited attack, but you can still just like attack stuff as you are climbing. You can attack off to the sides, and let's say you have mosquitoes. You know how mosquitoes are really annoying. You can actually attack them and fend them off while you are climbing, which is pretty damn cool. The free hunting aspect of the game, which was when you went to the Moga forest? No, Moga Woods? No, I'm just lost. Basically, when you exited Moga Village and you would just go on hunts, that seems to have been replaced with this new mode, which is expeditions. And the expeditions, they sent you on to an uncharted territory. So it's a map that you don't actually have access to the entirety of the map. You just have access to a small map of your current location. And the guild will have you hunt monsters there. And a lot of times you won't be able to, I mean, at least at the start, you won't be able to actually kill the monster, but you'll be able to get a shiny item off of him by just like beating the crap out of him, obviously. And when you get that shiny, you get like a confirmation that that monster exists, and then the guild might eventually give you a quest to actually go and hunt that monster down. Let me just look over a couple of notes that I have here. There's going to be multiple villages, like I've mentioned. The 3D effect. So I think that a lot of people are going to be wondering what's the deal with the 3D effect, because, I mean, obviously Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate was also on the 3DS, but I think most people played Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate on the Wii U, though I could be wrong. I mean, at least in Japan, most people would have played it on the 3DS, but I think in the West, most people tended to stick to the Wii U. At least that's the feeling that I get, but I could be wrong. Again, this is just an assumption that I'm making. But essentially, the 3D effect is actually pretty good. I've mentioned this in my review of the new 3DS, that I really like the 3D effect because it actually gives you a sense of immersion, and it makes you feel that the screen is actually a lot bigger than it really is. Now, this is something I can't really show you on camera. You have to be looking at it to really get a good sense of it. But with the super stable 3D technology, and assuming that you don't have any kind of problems with your eyes and that you're able to properly see 3D, I think the 3D is pretty cool. In Monster Hunter, it works fine. It's really great. Sometimes it gets a little bit confusing because, let's say, if you angle your camera certain ways and there's a monster that is like clipping through the end of the camera or something, it might be a weird pop effect and you're like, ugh. But most of the time, I mean 99% of the time, I keep 3D up all the way and I just enjoy it greatly. In terms of graphics, the game doesn't look very amazing. I mean, it looks fine. When you put the 3D up, at least to me personally, I think the game looks a lot better when you turn the 3D on. When you turn the 3D off, I feel that the game loses I almost feel that the game almost downgrades the graphics. I don't know what the deal is, but this actually happens to me with most 3DS games. Whenever I turn the 3D off, I just kind of feel that this game doesn't look that great. But then I turn the 3D on, and I'm like, oh man, this game looks awesome. So I don't know. I really like the way the Monster Hunter looks with the 3D effect. Without the 3D effect, not so much. So I don't know what the deal is. But again, it's one of those things that when I have the 3D effect on, I just feel that the game, it seems like the screen is bigger. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but I really like the way the game looks with the 3D effect. This time around, you're also going to get online multiplayer, and this is important because with Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate for the 3DS, you actually didn't have online multiplayer, you only had local multiplayer. So I think it's very important for people that only have the 3DS and they never maybe played online multiplayer on the Monster Hunter. You're going to be able to do so in the 4 Ultimate version. The Shakas, which were the 2 helpers that you got in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, they've been replaced with Palicos, which are the cats. You already had these in Freedom Unite. They used to be cats, and then they switched those Shaka dudes for 3 Ultimate, and now they're switching it back. They're calling these the Palicos, but they're essentially cats. As a matter of fact, you get to create a Palico when you create your main character. You get to decide what he looks like, you get to decide what clothes he's wearing, and eventually as you progress through the game, you will be able to customize the equipment of your cat. Now, he comes preset at the very start of the game. He comes preset with a lance, a piece of armor, and a piece of headgear. You'll be able to replace these as you advance through the game. I haven't been able to replace mine yet, but I'm assuming I'm getting there. I'm about to hit the 3-star quests pretty soon here, but I really wanted to get a video out to you guys to tell you about it because this is going to be available, I believe, on the 13th. So you guys might want to get on that if you are as big fans of Monster Hunter Ultimate, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate as I am. On top of having the cats and stuff, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate also has Street Pass functionality integration. Now, this allows you to share certain quests as well as receive certain quests from other players through Street Pass, as well as the Palicos. So you'll be able to receive the pet of one of your friends, and your friend will be able to receive your pet, and they'll be able to use those on quests in single player and stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure how this works because, like I told you guys, unfortunately in my area, not a lot of people have 3DSs, so my Street Pass doesn't really get a lot of action. And even less than that, there's not a lot of people that have 3DSs and even less people that play Monster Hunter. So I think it would be very hard for me to actually get Street Pass functionality off of Monster Hunter where I live, which is very, very unfortunate. But I mean, overall, this was the main reason why I wanted to buy a new 3DS, was to play Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. And I have to say, I do not regret it at all. I love Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. I think it's an awesome game. It is definitely one of the best games I've played this year. Then again, the year has only really begun. But I mean, last year, one of the games that I've played the most and enjoyed the most was Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. And I can already tell that is probably also what's going to happen in 2015. I really like Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. I highly, highly encourage anyone who finds this game interesting at all to give it a shot because it is great. In case you're wondering if there's any story significance with the previous titles, like, oh, but I would be starting on Monster Hunter 4, I don't know the story of the previous ones. Story is not really a big deal in Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is all about the gameplay, and Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is an excellent starting point. You shouldn't really have any problem getting into the game. As a matter of fact, I would say Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is one of the better starting points because it actually has a training program for every single weapon, and it tells you what you have to do with every single weapon. It gives you a basic tutorial of how to use every single weapon, which is very, very useful. But yeah, apart from that, that's all I can really say. Game's amazing. What can I say? Thank you very much for watching. Leave me all your comments, feedback, all that kinds of good stuff in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.